hope, the hype, the what ifs. Can 2025 be the season the Dolphins finally win a playoff game? It's been a long rebuild for Chris Grier and the Miami Dolphins, going on 7 years now, and they still don't have a playoff win to show for it. But what if this year is different? What has to happen in 2025 for the Dolphins to get a playoff win? Well, in this video, I'll discuss 3 major things that has to happen if the Dolphins want to get their first playoff win in 25 years. Let's kick things off by talking about the most important position on the field. That's right, quarterback. And with the Miami Dolphins, everything revolves around Tua Tagovailoa. Now, don't get me wrong, Tua has shown that he has some serious talent in the NFL, and he's given the Dolphins hope over the last few seasons. But let's be blunt here. Tua has to become an elite quarterback if the Dolphins want to break through and win a playoff game in 2025. It's no longer about being good or making excuses. Tua has to be a great quarterback to be able to compete with the elites in the AFC. In the AFC, Tua is going against some absolute heavyweights. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And these guys, they can put their teams on their backs and win football games, even when everything around them isn't perfect. These guys are the definition of elite, and this is what you need to have to be able to compete to win in the playoffs in 2025. Take Josh Allen, for example. The Bills made it all the way to the AFC Championship game in a rebuilding year. Think about that. And Josh Allen's elite play helped to put them into Super Bowl contention when most people thought that this was going to be a down year for them. The Bills lost 2/3 of their starters on defense, and they got rid of their number 1 wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, and they basically rode the magic arm of Josh Allen, and also his magic legs, because he's a dual threat quarterback as good as anyone in the NFL. So this kind of elite quarterback play can keep a team, even if they're rebuilding, and put them in the AFC Championship game. Now, I'm not saying that Tua is chopped liver. He's beaten Lamar Jackson one time on the road in a come-from-behind victory in the 4th quarter in order to win the game. He beat Josh Allen in a September game in Miami where the temperature was like 1,000 degrees. So he has beaten those guys. The only problem is they seem to happen in September. And the Dolphins really need to find a way as an organization to win games when it really matters in December and January. So with all those elite quarterbacks in the AFC, the Dolphins have to be able to beat one of them in order to win a playoff game. And Tua at some point is going to have to not only just keep up with them, but he might have to outplay them in a game that really matters in December or January. And the Dolphins really need him to step up to that level if they want to have any shot of winning a playoff game in 2025. So that brings us to the $53 million question. Can Tua Tagovailoa be the quarterback to lead the Dolphins to a playoff win for the first time in 25 years? Or should the Dolphins pursue one of these veteran quarterbacks such as Kirk Cousins, who's had success in the playoffs in the past? Or should they address the quarterback position in the draft? Should they draft another quarterback to have him either compete with Tua outright or at least push Tua to help him to become a better quarterback? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think about how the Dolphins should address the quarterback position this offseason. Now we have to get to the second step of what the Dolphins would need in order for them to make the playoffs in 2025. And that starts with General Manager Chris Grier. Chris Grier has to have the offseason of his life if the Dolphins have any chance of winning a playoff game in 2025. So Tua rises to the occasion, and he plays to an elite level that's able to compete with the likes of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Let's say that happens. The Dolphins aren't a quarterback away from winning a playoff game. The Dolphins have so many holes on the roster that Chris Grier has to fill, and I'm not sure if he's capable of doing it. Now, Chris Grier has 10 draft picks at his disposal, but he has a lot of holes on the team. I mean, they need 2 safeties, a cornerback, some edge rushers, maybe some interior defensive line help, some interior offensive line help, and they need to have a quarterback as an insurance policy in case anything happens to Tua Tagovailoa. And the Dolphins need to make that a priority if they want to have any chance of surviving this season, at least surviving a Tua injury this season. Now, looking at the past Super Bowl champion, the Philadelphia Eagles, That's what Chris Grier has to model his team like, right? He needs a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that basically have almost no weaknesses on their roster. Chris Grier has to build that kind of team around Tua for them to have a chance to compete against these elite quarterbacks in the AFC. So Chris Grier has to get on the job, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through the draft, and he has to hit and hit and hit on some of these guys. If you look at Howard Roseman and his acquisitions, I mean, they got a guy from New Orleans named Zach Bond. He was a relatively unknown player for 4 years. He comes on the Philadelphia Eagles. He mixes it up a little bit with Vic Fangio. And now the guy's like first team All-Pro at linebacker. I mean, that's the kind of move the Dolphins have to make in order for them to push this roster into playoff contention. I'm not even talking about Super Bowl contention yet, just playoff contention. The Dolphins have to make major moves in the offseason to get this team to compete with the likes of some of the juggernauts in the AFC. So believe it or not, this is not all on just Chris Grier. Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff is just as responsible for the team's failings in the last couple of years as the front office is. And to be honest with you, Mike McDaniel and his coaching staff has been outcoached on many occasions by the opposing sideline, and this is a trend that cannot continue into 2025. In year one, Mike McDaniel was very innovative. He took the league by surprise. They didn't really know what to expect from him, and he was able to score a lot of points against a lot of bad teams, but score a lot of points and run for a lot of yards, and the Dolphins looked like they were on the verge of becoming a serious contender. But somewhere in the second season, teams seemed to figure out what Mike McDaniel was doing. And now that the defenses have caught up to him, he doesn't seem like he has enough answers to find a way to still have an explosive offense, even though teams have found ways to take away a few of the things that they did well. So Mike McDaniel and the coaching staff, they have to be elite and coach at an elite level to be able to compete with some of these great teams in the AFC. Now, as far as the special teams is concerned, the Dolphins got rid of Danny Crossman, and as far as I'm concerned, that's addition by subtraction. So I did a video about Danny Crossman already. You can check it out here. But I will say that the special teams unit needs to be a standout unit for the Miami Dolphins. And with the offense struggling for the last year and a half or so, and then the defense having to be rebuilt, especially in the secondary, the Dolphins need their special teams to be above average to elite in order to help the team compete for a playoff spot in 2025. Now, as far as the kicking game is concerned, Jason Sanders had a bounce back year last year, so it's good to see him become a little bit more consistent from 50 yards out. But the Dolphins need so much more from their special teams than having a great season from their kicker. So here's the question for you guys. Can Chris Grier build this team up to Super Bowl contention? Can the coaching staff coach this team up to a championship level? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm very eager to hear your thoughts. Can the Dolphins front office and coaching staff support a Super Bowl caliber team? Now, the third and final thing that the Dolphins need in order for them to make a playoff run in 2025 is help from the AFC. And what I mean by that is that some teams in the AFC are definitely going to take a step back this year. And I don't know which teams those are. Every year you're surprised by which teams take a step back. Last year it was the Miami Dolphins. They were a playoff team in 2023, but in 2024, their quarterback missed 6.5 games, and then they were out of playoff contention. So if a team in the AFC takes a step back unexpectedly, and you never know, I don't want to wish any injury on anyone, but they got some quarterbacks in the AFC that had injury issues, right? Joe Burrow has had his issues with injuries. So is Lamar Jackson. So other teams will have a problem making the playoffs again this year. Sometimes it has to do with free agency defections. Sometimes it has to do with changes in the coaching staff. So whatever the reason is, if an opportunity presents itself for the Dolphins to get into the playoffs, they have to take advantage of it. So we'll see what the Dolphins are able to do in 2025, but they'll need some help from the rest of the AFC if they want to be a playoff team in 2025. So what do you guys think? Will the Dolphins break through in 2025? Will all these things come into fruition for the Dolphins? Or are they going to be left outside in the cold when it comes to the playoffs in 2025? Let me know in the comment section below. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to get all the latest content, and leave a comment in the section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.